he makes me better. He makes me better. He covers me, and that's what the man is supposed to do. He covers me. He's the head, I'm the neck. See what I'm saying? And so now I finally got what God always desired for me, but it was me that was moving, out of timing. It was me, because I wanted it so bad. And then, of course, I talked to the man upstairs, and I told him exactly what I needed in that 7 months. I knew I needed a man that was going to be able to come in and build me up, because I was a broken woman. I knew I needed a man that was going to come in and tell me how beautiful I was, that was going to tell me he loved me every day, because I had went through so many situations where I felt like I just wasn't loved the right way. So I asked God for certain things. When I met my husband, he was fasting at the same time.
Wow.
So that's how I knew. Because I told you I went through a lot of times where I was like, he is the one. I don't care what nobody say. He wear the shoes I like. He's the one.
It smell good.
Right. So that for me was, and I had to be patient. It's hard to be patient. And in that 7 months, and like I said, people say 7 months is not a long time. For me, it was. And it's hard to be patient. It's hard to sit back and actually wait and allow every day, just let it be. And let it be. And when I did that, finally, I got it right.
I love it.
There's a woman who I follow online who said something that I want to repeat here. She said, and this is for anybody who says that as a woman, you're not made for a man. Here's the rebuttal. As a woman, there is a hole down there, and men have a part that fits in that hole, like a puzzle. And that is how you know that as a woman, you are made for a man. Now, real quick, this program is not for kids, not even my own child, and I wanted to use what she said and insert it in my video, but she doesn't want anybody to use her material. I could still use it under fair use, but I said, I'm going to just quote that here because it's so true and it's so simple, but it's like this idea that, well, I'm not made for a man and men can't tell me what to do and dictate anything. Ma'am, you have a hole down there. And it not for anybody and everybody, but the man that God has for you, your husband, you were made for him. And it's that simple. And so I want to start this off by saying that just to debunk the idea that as women, we need to decenter men, or we need to somehow like not prioritize men. We weren't made for men. That whole idea can easily be debunked just with biology, just with what is it called? Anatomy. Because it really does fit like a puzzle. And again, in the context of marriage is what I'm talking about. Please don't twist my words. I'm not saying go out and, make everybody feel like a puzzle. No. But this is an important topic, and I have been wanting to talk about Fantasia for a while. Everything you heard Fantasia say, assume that I said it because I relate so much to her and her journey and her story. Some of you know my story. I was a single mom for almost 10 years prior to meeting my now husband, and similar to Fantasia, my life was a mess. Now, it may not have been as much of a mess as we know. Fantasia has been, there's allegations of her sleeping with a married man, and I think even getting pregnant by a married man. But Fantasia has cleaned up her act a lot, and she attributes her cleaning up her act, part of that, a big part of that to her husband, her now husband. I believe Kendall Taylor is his name. And I don't want this to solely be about Fantasia. I want us to really think bigger picture. So I'm using Fantasia as I often use celebrities in my videos. But as you all know, I'm really about the lesson. What can we learn from Fantasia? And I'm actually revitalizing, or in many ways resurfacing this, because this is something that was buried. This story was buried. And I've it's been on my mind for probably a couple of years to talk about this, because it's so rare for us to hear a woman speak of, and let me be clear, a woman in mainstream media, someone from the quote secular community, from Hollywood, from, entertainment, not from the church, because of course you might find women in the church speaking about being covered and so forth and about submission, but women, just out in the world, okay, not necessarily a woman pastor, but a woman out in the world like Fantasia. It's so rare to hear a woman like that talk about submission and the things that she was talking about. And one woman who actually did speak on this recently is Cheryl Underwood on Club Shay Shay. And it kind of got a little bit of attention, not too much attention, but I'm bringing this back up because as we get into this series, the covered series, it is so incredibly important that I make my point about why I'm doing this series in the first place. Part of the reason why I'm doing this series and why it's necessary for me to do is because the voices and the experiences of married women, happily married women, covered women have been silenced. And yes, I do feel as though, to a degree, that even I am part of that silencing. And I'm going to do my best to explain throughout the duration of this series. But let's start here. Let's start here with Fantasia. And I want us to really examine and look at just what she said, which was actually on the Breakfast Club. She talked about submission and the way in which she was ripped apart by women, mostly Black women, ripped apart, completely, almost canceled, if you will. A lot of people took issue with Fantasia talking about submission. And the really sad part about this is, I'm curious, okay, if Fantasia busted wide open on the dance floor and started twerking, would the response be the same? No. People would say, go ahead, girl, do you. I see you. But Fantasia talks about submission to her husband, and Fantasia gets completely demolished. To the point, and this is the important part, to the point where Fantasia never speaks about this again. I was waiting. So real quick, I guess to kind of go into a little bit of detail, Fantasia and her husband, they had a podcast called Taylor Talks on YouTube. And I followed it for a little bit. It was very interesting. I mean, I'm interested in them as a couple. So I did catch some episodes here and there. And I guess I had assumed that they would keep doing it. It would grow. They would, probably expand it in some way. And then they just stopped doing it. And I'm not really sure why they stopped. But one of the things I noticed is that, as far as I can recall, I don't remember Fantasia ever speaking the way that she spoke that day. Well, one, on the Breakfast Club, and then in her follow-up video where she kind of doubled down on what she said. she's never talked like that again, as far as I know. And I think it's sad, but I understand why. Is because so many people, mainly women, mainly Black women, could not handle what she had to say. And they also took issue, perhaps, with her husband being, again, I don't know a ton about him, but I understand that he is a business owner, but he does have a certain background. He does have a criminal record. He perhaps maybe has worked blue collar jobs. I think the narrative was like she's the breadwinner and she's taking care of him and he's broke and he's dusty and so on and so forth. That was a narrative. And so many women, again, not only took issue with Fantasia, but also took issue with the fact that Kendall was speaking in a certain way that where Black women just felt like, how, what gives him the right to say all this because he's dusty, so to speak.
So here's the issue. Submission is supposed to be a beautiful song and dance between two lovers. What's happened is men have abused that power. Forgive me, they've abused that gift. And we have been misled to think that it's something where it's a dominant spirit and we own every decision, we dictate everything, we rule with an iron fist. First of all, that's not love. What happens is, in my marriage, let me not speak for everybody, my marriage, I submit daily to the Most High. I stay in my scriptures. I continue to feed myself with things that help me build my character, to reshape my perspective that was messed up in the streets and dealing with different propaganda and programming and things like that, so that I can come to my wife from a pure position. So when I do that and she sees me and she witnesses over time that it's an authentic demonstration, her heart is moved and softened and compelled to submit to me. Yeah. What does that look like? That doesn't mean that I dictate every decision. I don't walk around the house saying what we're going to spend, how we're going to do it. We talk and we build. And I consider everything that's on her heart, her perspective, her position, her philosophy. I'll carefully weave that into my philosophy to figure out what's the best move for this family, keeping all of that in mind. Now, the moment I start to step outside of righteousness and I start to move from a place of emotion instead of analytics, she has every right to snatch that back, because submission is a gift. When she sees me laying at the foot of the Father, she has no reason to withhold that from me. The problem is this: men are not found in positions of leadership handling it with integrity. How you gonna lead your wife if you can't balance a checkbook? If you don't know what's going on in the stock market? You don't have a sound understanding of the finances. You can't create a budget. You don't understand what's going on in the educational system in your community that's impacting your kids. In order to lead, you gotta be so far ahead of your family that by the time they come to you with a situation or a problem, you've already dived into it, done your due diligence so that you can give leadership. You don't lead from your genitals. You lead from a gentle place of understanding. And the more she trusts, the more she can let go of things that she don't have to deal with and focus on the things that edify her. It ain't about money. We both hustlers. It's not about a dollar for dollar thing, because we're one unit. Yeah. If I fall, she falls. If she falls, I fall. Submission is solely about trust.
The bigger conversation is about how married women, not only are they silenced by other women, by society, by feminism, married women almost choose to be silent, because being married is such a multi-layered experience. It's such a in-depth experience that you realize that most people judge surface level. And to really fully understand your marriage, why you feel the way you do, why you submit, why it's important for you to, support your husband, or whatever it is, whatever you have between you two, a lot of people just won't understand it. How could they? They're not, they don't know they barely know themselves. So this idea that they would know all of your layers, all your husband's layers, all the things that you kind of have, it's just, so it's almost easier just to be quiet. It's almost easier just to say nothing, right? It's almost, it's like, it's almost easier to reduce what you have to just, oh, everything's good. Everything's fine. We're doing all right, because the depths of it is just too much for people to really understand. And it's not for people to understand. But the problem is that when you have someone like a Fantasia who then comes out and they want to speak on certain topics like submission, like, why they even, because really quickly, a viewer said in the comments, this was in the last episode of the cover series when I talked about Ashanti, a viewer said, appreciated that I talked about Ashanti, but he did say you didn't talk about how Ashanti was able to transition from being a single woman to then being married. And I thought that was a good point, even though I've somewhat talked about it in a previous video, but I think this is true. And so that's why I'm kind of honing in on this, because it is important to highlight what are the things that women need to adjust and change to actually get married. If that's what you want, what is it that you actually need to do differently? And Fantasia talked about this. She talked about this is how she had to change her mind. These are the things that, she read books, she fasted, she prayed, and not just a superficial, oh, I said a Sierra prayer. No. So she did all that. She ended up meeting her now husband. They got married pretty quickly, and they did have some challenges in the beginning. And I would imagine they probably still have challenges. But what the world wants to focus on is the challenge, or their, challenges that they've had or that they're having, and not necessarily on the growth. And I see Fantasia, I actually look up to her. There's actually very few people in the media, Hollywood, entertainment space that I can actually say I look up to. Like, I might feel connected to someone, but now looking up to someone is different. I actually look up to her because I have seen her growth, and it is massive from where she came from. And again, I identify myself as coming from being a single mom. I identify with a lot of her journey and a lot of her story. So real quick, I have no makeup on. As you guys know, I always give you this disclaimer, little lip gloss, because I just, as you may have seen, some of you may have seen in the community space, just got back from my honeymoon in Puerto Rico, and I'm heading out of town again. So I'm trying to make at least one video, maybe two, really quickly here. But and I would prefer to spend more time making the video as opposed to putting on all the glam that I then have to take off. So in my opinion, and I've talked about this before, humility, being married, is to me one of the most, if not the most, humbling things that I've ever done. And I'm not saying the wedding is humbling, although that was given all the things you have to do to actually plan a wedding. But no, I'm saying being married is one of the most humbling things I have ever done, and that I am continuing to do now. It is humbling. So when you talk about, going back to the viewer's comment, which I appreciated, what things do women need to do? What things do women need to work on to become a wife, to finally get the thing that they want, which is to be married? Humility is going to be one of those things. There's a lot of things. Humility being one, patience being another. So what I hear when I listen to Fantasia, I hear a woman who learned how to, as she talks about, love herself. I would imagine there's various different qualities that she had to learn, you know, and it didn't take long. It was, she said it was 7 months that she kind of whole, and and again, similar to my story, it didn't take a long time, but similar to Fantasia, prior to meeting my now husband, I went through a phase of just, again, not dating anyone, not talking to any guys, just really honing in on my self development. So I think this is important. So again, it's insane to me that so many women had an issue with what Fantasia was saying, when essentially Fantasia and her husband were describing the natural order, similar to my previous example of fitting together like a puzzle, the natural order. Why do so many people have a problem with that? Why are women not only silenced, but like made to feel inferior, weak? You can insert any word that describes a level of I guess inferiority, that and it's not that, because to submit, to be humble, to be patient, those are great qualities. Those are powerful qualities, extremely powerful qualities.
I think when women hear the word submission, we're like, what? Submitting. With my husband, like he said, to piggyback off what he just said, it was what he demonstrated. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't come in and say, all right, like he said, the budget is this for that, this is and the third. I watched how he did things. I watched how he budgeted. I watched him, and then I slowly became him, and I submitted in that. Yeah, now I think I'm more frugal than him, and that's not even being like gotta be frugal because we don't have it. It's just being smart. And the word, if you dig deep in the word with your partner, you'll start to see a lot of things that we're talking about. But yeah, I like that he broke that down, because I'm a very strong woman. I like what I like. I'm very strong. But when it comes to allowing him to cover and lead this home, I sit back and allow him to do that, and it makes me better. Wow, that like
lead by example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you want your wife to be humble, walk in humility. If you want your wife to forgive, you be quick to forgive. If you want your wife to consider, following you down a specific path, prove to her that you got the blueprint and that she's not following you to some unknown destination. My wife don't have to follow anything that she don't see me demonstrating.
Yeah.
So master the thing before you go out and try to teach it. It's like sometimes you see cats, as soon as they get a book and they read something, they start running, trying to teach people on it, but you haven't applied it and gone through the proving grounds of being able to master that information yourself. So leadership is a forward-thinking thing. And when you do that, women's natural instinct is going to be to trust, to be able to submit their hearts. But again, this ain't a dominant thing.
Nah.
And I want my wife cold as me, because if something ever happens to me, she don't like having
You
that
always
conversation.
say that.
If something ever happens to me, she need to know how to get that bag. She need to understand where the money's at. She need to know how to ask the right questions. I ain't telling you to ask nobody nothing. You tell them what belongs to you. She can't do that if I'm controlling everything. So my wife needs to be a direct female reflection of the man that I am. Facts.
Come on now.
You come on.
I always said the wise woman once told me, the older women used to tell me, stop, boy.
What up?
Is the woman is the neck and the man is the head. And without the neck, the head can't move.
Two heads is just a head, but see how that works. See how that works.
So yeah. And I'm gonna end it with this. We ain't perfect, and we ain't trying to be perfect. We still growing. And we just want to share that with all those out there that's still growing and want.
And get clarity. Don't be trying to twist my wife's words up at the end of the day, because I'm proud of her for standing.
They try to do that?
Man, whatever, Tom. At the end of the day, we want to make sure there's clarity to what she said and the understanding, and be able to hear the force behind what she is saying, so it don't get tangled and twisted. It ain't for everybody. Do your thing. But for women out there who truly desire that, and men who want to step up to the call, We just wanted to take time out, make sure we bring clarity to our demonstration, and hope that it's fruit for you in your lives. And watch how God bless. Straight like that.
Mine.
Salute.
I'm going to tell you something. And I talked about this in my video about Felicia Rashad and Tamar Braxton. And one of the things I talked about is how women always throw out there their wife material. Women always want to talk about, I'm wife material. I know I'm a wife. Yeah, he better recognize I'm wife material. That's the common thing you hear a lot of women say. Many of these women are not married. And my thing with that is it could be true, right? It could be true. You could be wife material. But more important than you saying that you're wife material, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. So rather than say that you're wife material, redirect that energy into the things you need to do to become wife material, which is what Fantasia did. I don't believe Fantasia was out there screaming at the top of her lungs saying she's wife material. You have women who, 5, 10, 20, 25 years later still saying, I'm wife material. I'm a wife. They better recognize. he better get on my level and recognize that I'm a wife. Ma'am, it's been 30 years and you have not been, you don't even have a boyfriend. So again, it's not about what are you saying and how you're proclaiming that you are something, this wife. Become the wife. And again, don't become the wife because you have a boyfriend. Don't become the wife because you think he's going to propose. Don't become the wife because you have a ring on your finger. Become the wife because that is who you are. That is just who you are. That is just what you do. You just do wife things. You just are a wife. And what does the Bible say? He who finds a wife finds what? A good thing. So my understanding is that Fantasia exemplifies this. Okay? Not out here making songs about being a wife. No. Just doing the work. And a lot of it is putting your head down on a day-to-day and just doing the work. Holding your head up high, right? Metaphorically, but on a day-to-day, essentially, you're just putting your head down and doing the work, whatever it takes for you to get to where you need to be, for God to bless you with that husband. And I will say bless, because we all know husbands are not perfect. Wives are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But that doesn't mean, just because someone's not perfect doesn't mean they're not a blessing. Sounds to me like Kendall Taylor has been an amazing blessing to Fantasia. They openly talked about the way in which she was being financially abused by the industry, by people she trusted. Financially abused, doing shows, and looking at her bank account, doing show after show and looking at her bank account and wondering why she's so broke, until her husband came in and covered her, not only with the finances, but emotionally. And the way Fantasia glows, the way she moves, she's not messy. She's never in any drama. I've never hear her name come up with any drama. I really can't, even if I wanted to try to create some gossip about her, I couldn't. The only thing that people can say is point back to this video that she did about 5 years ago with her husband. The worst thing people can say about Fantasia is that she's wife material. And that's not, obviously that's not an insult. But that's the worst thing people can say, is that, oh, she made a video about submitting, as if it's bad. So I probably could make some more points, but this is so important for us to recognize that there are women who feel ashamed almost to be open about being a good wife. Isn't that crazy? Like they have to pretend, like they have to downplay it so they don't offend anybody. Because if people know or get an inclination that she's, submissive, or if anyone gets an inclination that said woman is leading her life and following her husband who is following God and is internally genuinely happy. And again, this is not about things being perfect. And I want to clear that up, because I think a lot of times what women do is they look at circumstances and they go, oh, well, her life isn't perfect because blah, 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 blah. And this isn't, and it's not, none of this is about perfect. This is about having challenges together, growing together, making it on the other side, whatever the other side is, making it there together. And it's not about perfection. And so if you're judging someone from the gauge of something being perfect, they're never going to measure up. But that is what people want to do. They want to say, oh, well, her relationship isn't perfect. Her man isn't perfect. She's not perfect. Of course not. Nothing. It's not about perfect. It's about, again, being your best self. And who is going to be the person, in this case, the man. What man can get you to the point where you can be the best you? That is what it's about. And it's about you as a wife helping him as his helpmate to be the best him. And that is what I see. That is what I see that Fantasia and Kendall have created. That's what I see. I don't see a problem. I don't see any controversy. I don't see anything wrong. I see beauty in their relationship. So I wanted to highlight this very important episode of the cover series. Stay tuned for more. I have a lot more topics to talk about, you guys, in this series. And I'm also probably going to do a Slim Thick series as well, because I do have some subscribers I have some folks who specifically subscribed for my beauty and body standards content. So also stay tuned for that. Like, share, and subscribe. Click the links in the description box to get to know what I do as a coach and a consultant with my media business, Curated Legacy LLC. Join the Black and Invisible channel membership. That will allow you to become a channel member. I have a book on Amazon, so you can click the link in the description to learn more about my book about being an invisible Black woman. I also have a Black-owned store on Amazon, so you can click the link in the description to find out more about that. And feel free to purchase products that I have used for quite some time. I am on Instagram, so feel free to give me a follow if that interests you. And I think that's it for now. But as always, stay tuned for more videos.